How? Okay, here we go. Tonight, we welcome Distinguished Toastmaster to Allis Chalmers, Kris Pool. With a smile on her face, she will dazzle us with a spinning tale for our amusement. Let's hear it for Kris Pool, and you spin me around like a record.
Thank you so much, Yuri. I'm also going to ask that you give me permission to share my screen before I begin.
And yes, you have the permission to share screen.
All right, thank you so much. You spin me round, round, baby, round, round, like a record, baby, round, 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 round. I love this song. It was my 80s dance tune when I was going out clubbing downtown Milwaukee in my early 20s. Oh my goodness, that's such a long time ago. Oh my goodness. Do you remember when you were younger? Rolling down the hill, riding roller coasters, spinning around in circles until you were dizzy and just fall down. Now at age 50, becoming dizzy, it's not a very difficult task anymore. I can wake up in bed, middle of the night. I don't even have to roll over. All I have to do is open my eyes, and the room will begin to spin and make me dizzy. Sometimes just scrolling through the pictures on my phone will make me dizzy. I used to work in an old house, old building. It was from the 1890s, and my office was in the sunroom. There were certain spots, if I stood on the floor, I would get dizzy. I don't know what the connection is. When I was a little girl, I loved when my parents would take me down to Great America. The roller coasters, the Demon, the American Eagle. You get to go up and down, inside, outside, upside down. Uh-uh, no more. I need a much slower, calmer, tamer ride. My tame ride, it turned into the carousel, the merry-go-round. So no more ups and downs, the hills and valleys of a roller coaster, but a nice, gentle up and down as the carousel moves in a circle. But you guessed it, I got dizzy. It's not that the carousel even moved very fast. The last time I tried this, 3 seconds. 3 seconds into the ride, and I started to get dizzy. And mind you, I was just sitting on the bench. It wasn't even on one of the animals that went up and down. But it shouldn't have surprised me. When my husband, when he wants to back up into our driveway, he has to do a little circle in the cul-de-sac and back up. That makes me dizzy. I should know better at my age. When I was starting to figure out my topic, how to share my love of carousels, the merry-go-round with you, it's not just the actual physical merry-go-round or carousel, it's the horses, the animals on that carousel. And through the years, the names have changed quite a bit, and there's different references of what a merry-go-round or a carousel can be known as: a galloper, a jumper, a roundabout. I don't like real roundabouts in the street. A horseabout, or the flying horses. You never know what you're going to find. And it's interesting because when I started looking at the carousels, I never thought to think about the history of the horse, the history of that carousel. But the oldest predecessor of a carousel actually came from the 6th century in Byzantine. People actually made rides from baskets that were tied to a pole in the center, and then they would carry those riders in that basket. It started to progress in the 12th century. That was where we started getting the real inspiration for our modern carousels. In the 12th century, we had the cavalry games and the jousting, huzzah! And in Europe and in Asia, we had horsemen in that time. They would play those games of those jousting competitions. They would gather in a circle and then they would throw to each other breakable balls of perfume. And in order to catch those on their horses, this was actually a great skill. If anyone has ever been down to the Renaissance Fair, you'll see the jousting. That's where some of these merry-go-rounds, where the ideas had come from the jousting. In the 17th century, this is where the horsemen, again with the jousting, with their long pointy lances, would try to capture a small ring through the tip of their lance. It's a common game that they used to play. And at that time, this is something the commoners would actually start to do. This is the first simulation of a carousel that involved children on that wooden horse now, where the children are trying their luck at jousting and trying to catch a ring on their lance. In the 18th century, the carousels became bigger, and the first ones first started appearing in the late 18th century. They started to spread across Central Europe and England, and they actually became quite popular at fairgrounds. And then we moved into the 19th century. The first platform carousel, where you had the bottom metal plate, and then you had the carousel attached on it. These were actually called dobies, and it was a platform that rotated with the animals, with the chariots fixed on it, and it was actually operated manually. Oops. Started talking a little bit about the history, where the idea of this carousel comes from. But how old is old? The earliest known carousels that worked here in America were actually in Salem, Massachusetts. 1799, and it was known as the Wooden Horse Circus Ride. The oldest operating platform carousel in the United States is the Flying Horses Carousel in Oak Bluffs, Massachusetts. It was designed and constructed in 1876, and the designer was Charles Dare. Put that in your back of your head for a little bit of trivia. This picture, the horse that I have here, this is actually an antique full-size horse. It is from the early to the mid 20th century. $10,000. Wooden carousel horses, they were very rarely made from one piece of wood. You had the central part of the horse, which was normally made out of wooden panels, and then it was connected with wooden blocks and then shaped. That made a hollow body, which you would attach then to the head, the legs, and the tail in the back. Today, the carousel horses that you see and the other animals, they're actually made of aluminum and fiberglass, but they are still modeled after these original classic horses. I know I'm past time. I'm almost done. When you start thinking about the carousels and the merry-go-rounds, maybe you don't want to go for that old look. Maybe you want large. The greatest carousel in the world is actually located here in Wisconsin at the House on the Rock. It has 269 hand-carved carousel animals. And when you look at the animals, you're going to see basically three different stances. How are they actually positioned on that carousel? You have the standing figure. So that means they have all four legs placed on the ground. You have the prancers, and that's where they have the two back legs on the ground and two in the air. And then you have the jumpers. They can have all four legs in the air, and the jumpers will also move up and down. I have watched merry-go-rounds. I've watched them go round and round, spin me round, and I love watching it, getting pictures. This is a picture I actually took in Dollywood a couple of years ago. I enjoy them. I just don't want to ride them because I get dizzy. I encourage you to go and find the best way for you to go spin me round and round and hope that you don't get dizzy. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.